Welcome.
Welcome to the Everything podcast, and I'm back after a couple of weeks off due to various illnesses, both physical, meaning that I would probably sound like Kermit the Frog or very high-pitched, low-pitched one of them, so yes, I took a break. So thanks Chuck again for stepping in, but the hope, I probably said this last time, is that hopefully now I won't, because I'm changing the format again, so I will record a week ahead, hopefully, all that week. So it might be that unless I'm ill or something, it should pretty much. But unless anything unexpected happens, it should run by normal. So this week, what we've got to look forward to are so there'll be some Big Finish news, or I'll be covering all the news from September 2024, and we will have the trailer breakdown for Red 1. Because it has been a request and it's very simple to do. So without further ado, in this episode, I'll be looking at the Big Finish news for the 1st to the 5th of September 2024. So let's get started. So on the 2nd of September 2024, which is where we're going to start because there was no news on the 1st of September, the trailer for Torchwood The Hollow Choir was unveiled. So here it is.
From Big Finish Productions, Torchwood, The Hollow Choir.
What can you tell me about the cave? The whole thing was sealed. Rock fall way back in the 40s. Until yesterday. 12 hours ago, some sort of massive tremor seems to have opened up the system again. 3 students went down there. You've got much bigger problem than that on your hands.
I don't want to listen. I don't want to hear.
That singing. Whatever that is, it's getting worse. I've heard that song before.
You do, don't you? It's in you too. It climbs inside of you. It makes a nest between your ears. I tried to fight it, but it's so beautiful.
Big Finish, for the love of stories.
Sometimes the dark is enough to be scared of all on its own.
That was the trailer for Torchwood The Hollow Choir. And next up, so we're now jumping a day ahead again now to the 3rd of September 2024, which was when the 4th Doctor Adventure Dominant Species is released. So before I look at the press release and what was said about it in Vortex magazine, here's the trailer for the 4th Doctor Adventures Dominant Species.
I'm the Doctor. This is Naomi and Harry.
Hello.
Hi.
From Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, The 4th Doctor Adventures, Dominant Species.
What happened?
Well, I'm not entirely sure. The power's out, though we appear to have arrived somewhere.
Right, where's that?
Looks like the hold of a ship.
HMS Maycrest. Oh, that sounds familiar.
Hands up. Drop your weapons.
What was that?
Friend of yours?
What's up,
U-boat attack. Is the crate secure?
Naturally, we were curious as to what was inside. That lock is a work of art.
All is prepared.
This place looks like a war zone.
Wax! Destroy! A quark? You're a quark, deadly robot servant of the Dominators.
The Dominators Dominators rule this system. You shall obey their orders.
I remember the Dominators, you know.
Nasty little bullies.
Teleria was the first planet they invaded.
Destroy!
We're outmanned and outgunned.
We have no leaders.
Our parliament was destroyed in the first attack.
Doctor, what do we do?
At this precise moment,
Yeah?
I've absolutely no idea.
Let us look after you, Nala. We'll keep you safe.
No one can, not from the Dominators.
No, Naomi, stop!
The explosive device is primed. The detonation process is ready to activate.
Big Finish for the love of stories. I lost a planet. I lost my friends. I'd promised them a holiday. All I delivered was death, a horrible death.
That was the trailer for the Fourth Doctor Adventures Dominant Species. Let's now look at the press release for that release. That press release is titled Prepare to be Dominated. The Dominators and the Quarks are back in the Fourth Doctor Adventures Dominant Species, a brand new full cast audio drama available now from Big Finish Productions. Series 13 of the Fourth Doctor Adventures comes to a thrilling conclusion with the release of Dominant Species, a box set comprising 2 adventures for the Fourth Doctor, played by Tom Baker, and his companions Harry Sullivan, played by Christopher Naylor, and Naomi Cross, played by Eleanor Crooks. The title story features the return of the Dominators, augmented humanoids who terrorise the universe with the help of robots called the Quarks. These villains first appeared in a 1968 TV story starring even the Second Doctor, and now they're back for a rematch with the Fourth, facing the Doctor on audio for the first time. And The Face in the Storm is based on the true story of the Maycrest, a ship in the Second World War stuck in Atlantic ice with the West Indies Regiment on board. What secrets does it hold for Naomi? The 2 new stories for the Fabulous Fourth Doctor are The Face in the Storm, which is written by Sarah Cracola. Here's the synopsis. 1916, the TARDIS has landed in the cargo hold of the SS Maycrest, a ship transporting soldiers across the Atlantic, except that's not all that's being transported across the ocean, because the Doctor and his friends find a strange crate in the hold, a crate that's unnaturally cold, but the contents of the crate are not the ship's biggest secret, nor its deadliest threat. The other story in Dominant Species is Dominant Species, written by John Dorney. It has been a long time since the invasion of Teleria. The population is enslaved and subject entirely to the will of the Conquerors, the Dominators, and their deadly robot servants, the Quarks. The Doctor, Harry and Naomi stumble into this perilous scenario and are soon separated, but freeing the people of Teleria should be business as usual, shouldn't it? When the Dominators are concerned, things may not be so simple. Providing the voices of the Dominators are Clive Wood, who you may know from Press Gang, Clive Haywood, who you may know from The Windsors, and Joseph Kloska, who you may know from The Crown. The box set's guest cast also includes Indra Over, Rosalind Landor, Polly Camp, Kayush, Reese Pantry, Christopher Weeks, and Emily Woodward even. Dominant Species concludes the Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 13 in its story arc following Harry and Naomi's journeys with the Fourth Doctor. The pair's adventures continues in the new unit Nemesis series, which began in 2021, and the Seventh Doctor Adventures Sullivan and Cross AWOL. Actor Christopher Naylor said, "Recording this run of stories has been wonderful. Harry was a very iconic character for me as a very young Doctor Who viewer. Ian Marter's performance was so subtle, sympathetic, funny and intelligent. Being able to play Harry Sullivan has been an extraordinary experience I could never had imagined would happen. These stories feel so faithful to the tone of those stories from way back, very respectful of the characters, and they have a lovely completeness. It's very pleasing the way it wraps up. I hope people enjoy them who had such a great time recording them." Tom Baker added, "I've been making an absolute feast of Dominant Species. This is a wonderful composition of violence and ambition and skullduggery and cheating and horror. It's right up to the minute actually. All this duplicity and search for power, and overriding it all is the Doctor, who's trying to make sense of the tumultuous struggle. there are some great villains. Writer Sarah Grocola said, writing The Face of the Storm was both daunting and fun. Tom's Fourth Doctor is the one I grew up with during the second half of his era. When I was a little kid, I used to play imaginary Doctor Who with my cousins. I was Romana and my male cousin was the Doctor. With my little sister and female cousin, both wanted to be K9, so we had 2 K9s. I have very vivid memories of the TV episode The Stones of Blood, for instance. That was my Doctor Who terror moment of hiding behind the sofa. I don't recall very much of the plot, but I do remember those stones. Now let's have a look what Vortex had to say about the Fourth Doctor Adventures, Dominant Species. In the 1968 Doctor Who television serial The Dominators, the second Doctor encountered the eponymous augmented humanoid conquerors and self-proclaimed masters of the 10 galaxies. By their side was the robotic servants, the Quarks. And now, in the Fourth Doctor Adventures, Dominant Species, our intrepid adventurers are once again going to meet this familiar race. The TARDIS team of the Fourth Doctor, played by Tom Baker, Harry Sullivan, played by Christopher Naylor, and Naomi Cross, played by Eleanor Crooks, have encountered all manner of weird, strange creatures since they began their travels together earlier this year. We know how the adventures end for Harry and Naomi. They'll be left in the 21st century, as we discovered in Unit Nemesis, but the fun of the journey is finding out just how they got there. The box set's opening 2-parter, The Face in the Storm by Sarah Grocola, explores Naomi's ancestry during a trip to the past. 1916 and the TARDIS has landed in the cargo hold of the SS Maycrest, a ship transporting soldiers across the Atlantic, except that's not all. It's being transported across the ocean because the Doctor and his friends find a strange crate in the hold, a crate that's unnaturally cold. But the contents of the crate are not the ship's biggest secret, nor its deadliest threat. Producer David Richardson says, Sarah's a fantastic writer. I think it's fair to say she doesn't know Doctor Who as well as some of us, but she really does her homework and immerses herself in every era she works in. The Face of the Storm is a better and once again is a belter even, and once again demonstrates why Sarah is an award winner and such an in-demand writer. Script editor John Dorney adds, Sarah's The Face of the Storm is a lot of fun. It was a relatively late entry to the party, but we felt it made sense to look a little bit more into the history of Naomi. The TARDIS arrives on a boat crossing the Atlantic, but all manner of mysterious things happen on the way, as you would expect from a story in the Doctor Who universe. It was one of the earliest scripts by Sarah, who's gone on to write a lot more for Big Finish. I gave her a reasonably tight brief to work from, and she developed it so well. Sarah tells Vortex, writing this was both daunting and fun. Tom's Fourth Doctor is the one I grew up with during the second half of his era. When I was a little kid, I used to play done that from the press release. There's no point really repeating myself. The Face in the Storm brief was to do something for Naomi that would connect back to her family's past. I can't remember how I came across the story of the ship in the Second World War being stuck in the ice with the West Indies regiment on board, and Britain not looking after them very well. I'm always looking out for something that's really happened which feels like it could have been the result of alien intervention, and the Maycrest getting mysteriously stuck seemed like it could have been because of aliens, although in reality it was very much caused by human beings making silly mistakes and not caring enough about each other. With the story having a historical setting, it meant that Sarah had to dive into the past to be as accurate as possible, or as historically accurate as you can be in a Doctor Who adventure. She admits, I did do lots of research. There was some information about the Maycrest online, particularly articles in Caribbean papers like The Gleaner, but there wasn't as much information as perhaps there should have been. It felt like a good situation for the Doctor to be involved in, and meant I could bring the real story to a wider audience. When I'm looking for inspiration for my aliens, I quite often check if there are any folklore or monsters who might make good foes. So this alien is based on a Japanese monster, a creature that takes the form of a woman who entices men into the woods and then freezes them to death. It reminds me a bit of the mermaids in Eastern European culture, who are much more violent than in Western culture, more like sirens who lure men to their deaths. Sarah also enjoyed writing for this TARDIS team. She says, getting Harry was really interesting because he's not in a huge number of episodes in the original series, but it's just lovely the way his character has been expanded. He gets to hang out with the Doctor now and have the full companion experience. One of the most exciting things for me was writing for Naomi, who at this point was brand new. Some episodes had already been written for her and I got to read those scripts, although I didn't have a chance to hear her voice at that point. I also love the fact she's from the 1970s, which brings another element into it and keeps it true to the original series. Sadly, I wasn't at the recording, so I don't know how Tom felt about my lines for him. I'm really disappointed I didn't get to meet my favourite Doctor. I guess one of everyone's bucket list things about writing for Big Finish is actually getting to stand in the same room as our Doctor. All the Doctors have a really good sense of humour, and the Fourth Doctor in particular. So it's a shame to miss out on the quirkiness Tom has when he's at work. Writing for Tom was definitely a highlight of this adventure, as I often do with the historical ones. I really enjoy working out how to fit it all together. And I always love a monster. They are good fun to play with. I guess I'm all so interested in the idea of warfare, weapons, and the desperation that people get to in terms of trying to work out what they can use against the other side. So it's always thought-provoking, exploring the foolhardiness of humans using destructive technology that they don't fully understand. The second adventure in the set is Dominant Species by John Dorney. Read that. Here we go. David was delighted to bring the Dominators and Quarks back to face the Doctor, he says. We had the idea for some time, but we work a long way ahead on the Fourth Doctor Adventures range. Dominant Species was recorded in 2019 and pre-production started in 2018, 6 years ago. It feels like a different world, but I was instead keen to have the Dominators and Quarks in one of the Fourth Doctor's episodes. I think they work so well on audio. Tom has always said he loves a great strong villain, and he likes villains that are played by great actors. It's a fun challenge when casting an adversary for the Fourth Doctor, and Clive Wood and Clive Hayward will seem like great choices for the roles. And they threw themselves into the parts and to the huge shoulder pads at the recording. But as you can imagine, the similarity between their names got a bit confusing in the studio. Writer John says, I'm very openly a big fan of the Dominators. I think they are really interesting. I love the original TV serial The Dominators. I think it's massively underrated and it offers some exciting options. So this was something I really wanted to do. The idea started out a long time ago, so long ago that it's tricky to remember when. The inspiration was a third Doctor story by Andy Frank Mallon featuring the Dominators, but he never found the story he wanted to tell, so decided to pass them on to someone else. I think it was David who correctly remembered that I'm a massive fan and asked me if I'd be interested in writing a story with them, which of course I very much was. Shortly after that, we switched things so it became a Fourth Doctor story, which was equally a delight to do because I always enjoy the Tom stuff. Getting to write him with the Dominators was massively appealing. John enjoyed approaching the Dominators with a serious but still fun mindset, he explains. Are they monsters? Are they villains? Generally speaking, I just think they're a lot of fun. As monsters go, they're an absolute hoot, and hootishness is a underrated joy of a Dominator. There are a few moments in expanded media fiction, universe fiction even, where they are sometimes treated as a bit of a joke. And I think that's because people weren't entirely happy with the original serial. The writing and intention was not that the Quarks look silly, for example. I don't think the Quarks do look silly. They're actually quite a sharp piece of design, and I wanted very much to establish them as a serious threat. I've often talked about how I think that The Dominators is the closest Doctor Who ever gets to being an episode of Columbo, because it starts with the villains arriving. They're big, smug, arrogant jerks. They kill someone and think they can get away with it just because of who they are. Then this shambling mess turns up about 15 minutes in who causes them chaos, and they get really annoyed with him. It's the only Doctor Who story where the villains don't realise who the antagonist is. They never realise the Doctor's a threat, so literally right until the last moments of the story, they're thinking they're won, and they have that moment where they see the bomb on their ship. It's genius. I generally think it's inspired. Some of the things that leapt out at me are the interpersonal politics amongst the Dominators, which is quite nice. I think that gives them a little bit more character. For example, Rago and Toba are very much at odds and have their own individual plots. They can't be fighting the Doctor because they don't realise the Doctor's the enemy. They're more interested in fighting each other. I thought this was a really lovely bit of character detail. It's one of those stories where you've got monsters and they aren't just a cookie cutter of the same shape every time and have the same kind of reaction. I wanted to have aspects of that, so some of the internal Dominator politics is very much in play. John concludes this is a hard one to talk about as it's got an interesting structure. I always look for new angles on things and figured out a good approach for this one. There's so much about the Dominators to like, the language they use, all that glorious command accepted sort of stuff. I like how idiosyncratic the Dominators are. They're a fun villain that's worth treating with the respect they deserve. It's also worth mentioning that this story pretty much tells you how Harry and Naomi end up at UNIT. It's probably fairly obvious at this point given the other stories, but it should tie things together and everyone should know their entire arc for now. David adds, we knew exactly where Harry and Naomi's story was going back in 2019. It was always planned that we'd make and record this series first and that their adventures would continue in UNIT and with the 7th Doctor. But actually listeners would hear these productions before they heard their introduction in the 4th Doctor range. It's a show about time travel, so there's no need for arcs to be told in sequence. That is it for Vortex, and that's actually it for everything about the 4th Doctor and the Dominant Species and this episode actually. So the next episode I will be showing you the trailer for the 3rd Doctor Adventures, the Quintessence. Oh, that's pretty... I'll have to jiggle it round because I was doing the dates, but it might not quite work that way, so I might just do that. Actually, yeah, we'll keep it, I think. But anyway, let me know what you thought about the trailer for Torture of the Hollow Choir, as well as the 4th Doctor Adventures, Dominant Species. If you've listened to it, put your thoughts on those in the comments below, as well with anything else you want me to cover the channel. And yes, remember you can also like, comment and subscribe, and that's it for this episode of the Everything Podcast. Goodbye.